who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Hallelujah. Abba Yahweh, we told you for this first great day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Abba Yahweh, continue to look over your nation as we all stand and observe your days. Continue to look over your nation and baruch us in the things that we do. Abba Yahweh, continue to be with us in these days and send any amount of wickedness far away from us, any amount of distractions, anything that Shaitan seeks to throw our way. Abba Yahweh, let your words, let your truth, everything about you continue to go out amongst the people. And especially on your feast days to show us all what we are striving for, to show us all what is waiting for us when we endure to the very end. Abba Yahweh, continue to be in our minds at this time of year. Have us to be very sincere with you, Abba Yahweh, and to get rid of all leaven, not in just our homes, but in our vessels. Have us think in a new mindset, to walk with you, to do your will, and so you can be pleased with us, everything that we have done for you, Abba Yahweh. Abba Yahweh, continue to purge these vessels, continue to cleanse these vessels, so your Ruach HaKodesh may be able to dwell within us and be able to guide us into all truth, guide us into all righteousness. Abba Yahweh, have your people to take great delight in knowing you, great delight in following your feast days and your Shabbats, and take great delight in walking this way of life to achieve salvation. Abba Yahweh, salvation that walked the face of this earth. Abba Yahweh, have our minds focused on him and what he has done for the whole world. Yahshua HaMashiach, have us to walk in his footsteps and not be ashamed. Have us to walk with him in order to save our souls. Abba Yahweh, show your people that our souls are on the line and we must follow you and be obedient so we may see salvation, so we may be able to walk into your kingdom. And Abba Yahweh, continue to walk with us in this way of life in these last days and continue to shield us, protect us from all hurt, harm, and danger that may go throughout this earth. In Yahshua HaMashiach's name we pray. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. House of Israel, you may be seated. Shabbat Shalom once again, House of Israel. This is the first great day of Feast of Unleavened Bread. Today I want to read from you the book of Psalms. This is Psalms 40. Psalms 40 says, I waited patiently for Yahweh, and he inclined to me and heard my cry. He also brought me up out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my foot upon a rock, and established my steps. He has put a new song in my mouth, praise to Abba. Many will see it and fear, and will trust in Yahweh. Baruch is that man who makes Yahweh his trust, and does not respect the proud, nor such as turn aside to lies. Many, O Yahweh, my Abba, are your wonderful works. which you have done, and your thoughts towards us cannot be recounted to you in order. If I would declare and speak of them, they are more than can be numbered. Sacrifice and offering you did not desire. My ears you have opened. Burnt offerings and sin offerings you did not require. Then I said, Behold, I come. And in the scroll of the book it is written of me, I to delight to do your will, O my Abba, and your Torah is within my heart. I have proclaimed the good news, the glad tidings of righteousness in the great assembly. Indeed, I do not restrain my lips. O Yahweh, you yourself know. I have not hidden your righteousness within my heart. I have declared your faithfulness and your salvation. I have not concealed your loving kindness and your truth from the great assembly. Do not withhold your tender mercies from me, O Yahweh. Let your loving kindness and your truth continually preserve me. For innumerable evils have surrounded me. My iniquities have overtaken me, so that I am not able to look up. They are all more than the hairs of my head. Therefore my heart fails me. Be pleased, O Yahweh, to deliver me. O Yahweh, make haste to help me. Let them be ashamed and brought to mutual confusion who seek to destroy my life. Let them be driven backwards and brought to dishonor who wish me evil. Let them be confounded because of their shame, who say to me, Aha, aha. Let all those who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. Let such as love your salvation say continually, Yahweh be magnified. But I am poor and needy, yet Yahweh thinks upon me. You are my help and my deliverer. Do not delay, O my Abba. Hallelujah. At this time period, our House of Israel, we want to continually observe and keep in mind what he has done for us, what his son has done for us, to give us another chance at eternal life. He gave up his life for the sins of the whole world, so we may have life more abundantly. So Israel, we must take this time period serious and want to get rid of wickedness and evil and want to follow Yahweh in all truth, because that is the only way we can follow Yahweh. And he is going to follow us as long as we are sincere in following truth also. Hallelujah. So at this point in time, I'd like to turn the service over to Minister Dawid. We want to receive him by saying the highest form of praise to Yahweh by saying hallelujah.
Shabbat Shalom to you all today, dear family. We told the Almighty Yahweh for this Baruch day of the first great day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And we told the Almighty Yahweh not just for our lives, our health, and our strength, but also for the life of his son, Yahshua HaMashiach, who he sent to this planet to show us, mankind, as his creation, that the Torah is not an impossible or daunting task to keep. But we told the Almighty Yahweh for the example that we all have to look up to as far as what manhood and what righteousness is, and the example that his son, Yahshua HaMashiach, left on record for us as far as what righteous living is to look like when it's truly exemplified. Today we want to talk, Deacon Reginald and myself, we're going to talk with you all today about not just the unleavened bread in the physical sense or in the sense of what we eat, but we're also going to talk talk today about the significance of the purging and the removal of unleavened, well, the leavened bread. Not just the natural bread that we eat and consume, but also the spiritual leaven, the leavening of hatred, the leavening of malice, the leavening of envy, the leavening of disobedience, and all things that are displeasing and unacceptable in Almighty Yahweh's sight. And we also want to talk about the obligation that we ourselves, as Yahweh's people, the children of Israel, have to Almighty Yahweh. Because whether we know it or not, the Pesach and the Feast of Unleavened Bread was an exchange between us and Almighty Yahweh. You know, the heathens, they get around, they have their gifts, their days of celebrations, whereby they'll give gifts unto one another, where you don't catch too many people at Christmas time. As false as it is, as damnable a practice as it is, you don't catch too many people receiving gifts from people and not having a gift to give to everybody who they receive gifts from. You very seldom ever see that. But they took that principle from Yahweh and his people. See, when we were oppressed and downtrodden in the land of Egypt, Almighty Yahweh moved on our behalf because he heard our cries. He says in Exodus chapter 2 that it was all done so for that very reason. Everything that he did in ancient Egypt was because of the groanings and the cries of his people. That's how we obtained the deliverance in which we sought after and begged Yahweh for. Even down to the point that Almighty Yahweh, to show how mighty and how powerful his hand was over Pharaoh and over all of ancient Egypt, Almighty Yahweh struck the firstborn of everything in the nation, from the highest chief officer in the land to the lowliest prisoner in the dungeon, and even struck the firstborn of all the cattle and all the beasts, and then turned right back around to his people and asked that they consecrate unto him and set apart unto him their firstborn, all who pass through the matrix. And along with the consecration of the firstborn of Israel, Yahweh would even come back millenniums later and even sacrifice, consecrate, and dedicate his firstborn, Yahshua HaMashiach, so that not just Israel, but so that all that was to come of the various nations on the planet that would turn from their wicked ways and do the will of Almighty Yahweh might have a right to the tree of life also, and have it more abundantly. But dear family, let's go into the book of Leviticus, chapter 23. The book of Leviticus 23, as well as Deuteronomy 16 and other places throughout the scripture, they constantly emphasize the importance of these feast days. Because we're not just gathered here because we were sick of going to work and we just wanted an excuse to be off, in the same manner in which Pharaoh said unto Moshe and Aaron when they were told to go and present themselves before Pharaoh and say unto Pharaoh to let the people go 3 days journey into the wilderness. Pharaoh turned and looked at Moshe and Aaron. Oh man, you make the people idle. Y'all must not have enough work to do. You talking about going off into the wilderness 3 days to sacrifice? Oh man, we gotta get y'all some more work to do. In fact, you know what? We're gonna stop giving out brick. We're gonna stop issuing brick and mortar. You all will make your own brick from here on out and keep to the same quota because you apparently don't have enough work to do. Well, these feast days of Almighty Yahweh, these are not of that type of scenario. It's not that we just, oh man, I don't feel like going to work today. I ain't got nothing better to do. Ain't nothing on TV. Let me go in here and see what they talking about in Yahweh's house. No, each and every one of these feasts of Almighty Yahweh that we are commanded to keep, they bear a level of significance in this earth, and they also point to the kingdom to come, each and every one of them. And just as you have your various house keys and your alarm codes and things of that nature to let you into your house as well as your car, these feast days are the alarm codes, the keys as well, to get into Almighty Yahweh's kingdom, as well as his son, Yahshua HaMashiach. And he says in one place in his word that salvation can't be obtained without his son, Yahshua HaMashiach. And any man coming up any other way is a thief and a robber. So you ain't getting salvation by bypassing the Pesach and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Because the Pesach, the lamb that was offered, as well as the blood of the pure blood of the grape in which we consumed, as well as the unleavened bread, represent the body of Yahshua HaMashiach. Let's go into Leviticus 23. I'm going to start here at the first verse. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of Yahweh, which you shall proclaim to be Kodesh convocations, or Kodesh Modim, or holy convocations. Even these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, a Kodesh Modim, or holy convocation. You should do no work therein. It is the Shabbat of Yahweh in all your dwellings. Straight out the gate. Before we even get to the annual feast days, you got that one weekly feast day, that weekly day of rest that Almighty Yahweh called for his people to set themselves apart from the rest of the world, to drop everything in which they're doing, to pay obedience unto Almighty Yahweh. Got that right there. Before you even get into the festivities, let the Shabbat be established right here. Then it goes further. So these are the feasts of Yahweh, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. And the 14th day of the first month at evening is Yahweh's Pesach, or Yahweh's Passover, the night in which Almighty Yahweh passed over his people, the children of Israel. He heard their groanings, and heard their cries in the land of Egypt. He gave the command for them at a particular point in the year to gather together as a nation, to slay the lamb collectively for their families, and to take the blood of the lamb, and to sprinkle the blood of the lamb upon the side post and the lintel of the doorway. And over that, the destroying angels that went all throughout the land of Mitzrayim that night would know when they saw the houses of those Hebrews to bypass this dwelling or to bypass that dwelling, because these were people of Almighty Yahweh that were keeping the feast. Now, Yahweh, as King Dawid told us on numerous occasions, Yahweh does nothing by coincidence, fluke, or happenstance. Now, if you look into the Hebrew alphabet, you get into the Hebrew letterings, one letter in particular, the letter Hey, looks like the doorway of your household. When you really look at it, and it's almost as if it was a signal to the angels that were destroyed. Hey, you stop here at this house. You don't go here. You don't destroy them. They're keeping my Pesach. They're doing my feast. You move along to the next one. And as the destroying angels went all throughout the land of Egypt, those houses who had that blood sprinkled across that lintel and those two side posts that look just like that letter Hey. So Yahweh ain't doing nothing by happenstance or fluke. It goes on further. It says, and on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation, and you shall do no servile work therein. That's where we are today. We are on the 15th day of the month of Abib, which is the beginning of months. The 15th day of Yahweh's New Year. We're here today, keeping the first great day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And many people get balled up on the time frames. For many people, it's difficult first learning how to maneuver and how to operate from the time frame of two different calendars. You operate and you've been conditioned so long to maneuver and think based upon the Gentiles calendar and the Gentiles reckoning of time, where they'll have you, some instances they'll show you that the sunlight or sunrise begins the day, but then simultaneously in the world of paying bills and commerce, they'll have the day beginning at 12:01, which they'll dub midnight. But yet Almighty Yahweh, in the very beginning, in the book of Genesis or Bereshith, tells us how each time, each day of the week unfolded. You had the story or the account of whatever Yahweh created on each day. And each account ended with the phrase, and the evening and the morning was the first day. And the evening and the morning was the second day. And so on until even Almighty Yahweh himself kept the very first Shabbat that was established in the earth. And that set the tone and the precedent for how Yahweh's feast days were to be observed, not just in the days of old, but in our lifetime as well, and what they would dub today these modern times. But you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days, and the seventh day is a Kodesh convocation, and you should do no servile work therein. See, the one thing that a lot of people bring to Almighty Yahweh's word is not there. People want to, in their own minds, they want to make modifications. They want to tweak Yahweh's rules. They want to revamp or remodify their own keeping of Yahweh's feast to suit themselves. But Yahweh lays out the ground rules on numerous occasions for how his feasts were to be kept all throughout the book. And then people also want to come on along and want to bring things and add things to it that Yahweh himself did not command. See, now, when Yahweh brought about this feast of unleavened bread, there was no, man, hey, Moshe, ask Yahweh, can we keep this, that, and the other? Or, hey, Aaron, hey, look, these cakes over here, can ask Yahweh, is it all right to be keep these? Or, hey, look, go ask Moshe to ask Yahweh, can we keep this over here? You know, 'cause I just got it yesterday, I don't want to throw it out. No. When Israel was being delivered from ancient Egypt and they were coming out, it wasn't no whole shopping list or no whole grocery list of items that the people had an affinity to. No, they were moving and they were coming out in great haste. They didn't even have time to gather up all of the necessary leavening agents and things of that nature that they would otherwise bake with. They came out with their kneading troughs and they came out with the things in which they obtained from the ancient Egyptians, and they went forward. And it wasn't no great deal, oh man, I gotta throw this out, I gotta throw that out. No. You really look deeper into Almighty Yahweh's word, you see that the people were so strict and so circumspect that they went through their homes, if you will, with a fine-tooth comb, wanting to make sure that they got all of the leavening out of their homes so that none of it was found in their borders. And leavening, spoken of throughout the scripture, being a representative of sin, we should do our lives the exact same way during this particular week. We should make sure that not only did we remove the cakes, the pies, the cookies, sodas, and things of that nature from our homes, but we also want to make sure that we remove all those evil works, those things that were not listed among the fruits of the Spirit. We want to make sure we remove all of those things from our vessels, along with the desire to even hold on to those things, because some of those very things would be the things that keep an individual from out of Yahweh's kingdom, based upon their desire to still continue to mistreat their brother, or to still continue to defiantly, subtly disobey Almighty Yahweh's Torah. But it's those things that we need to have expelled from not just our homes, but also from our hearts, so as to be acceptable in Almighty Yahweh's sight. Because when you really look at the account of Israel leaving ancient Egypt with Moshe and Aaron that night, and you follow that account through and through until you get down to the last two spies that were allowed to go into the land of promise, it gets downright sad when you really think about it. Zakane read to us last evening about how there was upwards of 600,000 men that came up out of the land of Egypt that night. Now, those just the men. Not counting the wives, not counting the children, not counting the boys and girls, just the men. A little more than 500,000 of them. But only Yahushua and Caleb were allowed to enter into the land of promise because of their belief that the land that Yahweh was giving to them, the land that Yahweh sent them to spy out, could be taken. That's serious when you really think about it. You got upwards of 1 million people, but only 2 go in. And that's cutting it pretty close. And that's how serious Yahweh is. Yahweh is so serious that, as Zakane Dawid said earlier, we as a nation, we talk too damn much. If you look in Yahweh's word, you'll see that even the talking, or what Yahshua HaMashiach spoke to us of as the wayside dialogue, even the talking got us in trouble. Don't believe me? Go back and check for yourself. See why the 3-day journey turned into 40 years. Go back and see who had what to say about Moshe. Go back and see who questioned his leadership. Go back and see how they fought against him in such a way whereby every time you turned around, there was a new issue, a new complaint, something new, a new grievance. But yet at the same time, in the midst of Yahweh working all of those miracles before ancient Israel, we get one thing, we get delivered from this, we get delivered from that, and each time we deliver from something and a new miracle is presented before us, the spirit of forgetfulness will take over us. Come up out of Egypt, Yahweh strike at Egypt 10 different ways. And this to show you how powerful Shaitan is, but yet how limited his power is. As Yahweh sent Moshe and Aaron to go and present themselves before Pharaoh, they wrought numerous miracles before Pharaoh. Pharaoh had his magicians. He had his soothsayers. They went out. They attempted. They rivaled some of the miracles. Moshe threw down his rod to turn into a serpent. Pharaoh's magicians, they threw down their rods to turn into serpents. Then they come on back. They tried to rival the plagues of the lice and the flies. But yet, as the plagues continued to progress, you saw how weak Shaitan's power became. But yet, at the same time, in the midst of having saw all of these miracles, how Yahweh allowed Moshe to smite the miracle, strike the waters in Egypt to the point where the waters became blood. Pharaoh's magicians couldn't undo it, couldn't rival it. They couldn't cast out the frogs. They couldn't get them to drive. They couldn't drive them out. They couldn't resurrect or breathe life into those dead firstborn. But yet at the same time, in the midst of watching all of that judgment that Yahweh poured out upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt, Israel went on off and they gave Yahweh's representative the blues. They gave them hell, even so much so to the point that in the midst of them being thirsty, Yahweh granted him the ability to smite the rock and produce water. And got so upset he called them rebels. He spoke out of turn to them in such a way that it displeased Yahweh because of how Moshe talked to his people. Even though they were wicked, even though they were carrying on something fierce, but just the love that Yahweh has for his people, Israel. So as we keep the Pesach, as we keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread at this time of the year, we want to be mindful of the spirit that was upon our ancestors at that time, the way that they even stressed out their leaders just in constant grief, constant aggravation, constant complaints. Because so long as Yahweh breathes breath into our bodies, we don't have anything to complain about. And so long as our bodies are still here breathing and we can still call upon his Kodesh name and still have our prayers answered, as long as our bodies have not been cast into that burning lake of fire, we really shouldn't even have anything to complain about, considering the fact that it's Almighty Yahweh that supplies all of our needs. Let's go back here into the book of Exodus momentarily. Let's start here in Exodus 12, verse 1. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month shall you take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to him take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall you make account for the lamb. See, this was the time frame whereby Israel was in preparation to be delivered from the oppressive regime in which they were under. But yet at the same time, they were getting ready to have the ultimate memorial instituted and established in their history. The heathens sit back, they'll give you all kinds of days to celebrate, and you never hear the heathens bickering and fighting and arguing amongst themselves as to when Memorial Day is or when Independence Day is here in America. But yet, as soon as Israel's Memorial Day and as soon as Israel's Independence Day emerges, then all of the fighting comes along. And suddenly, oh man, you didn't do this right, or you didn't do that right, you didn't do that wrong. But nobody ever wants to sit down and put their ego aside, to delve into the book to see what thus saith Yahweh. Sometimes people emerge, take a doctrine that's newly emerging and just take it and run with it. Whereas the thing to do is to consult Almighty Yahweh and see what thus saith Yahweh, what's in his word. But yet, you don't see the heathens fight amongst themselves and bicker. Oh man, no, no. July, actually, they didn't sign the Declaration of Independence on the 4th of July. They actually had signed it on the 3rd. But they didn't really get the meeting and everything jumping until the following day. So we should really be blowing off the fireworks on the 3rd. You don't see none of that nonsense among the heathens. You don't see that when they come around to Memorial Day. They don't argue over whether or not they should fly the American flag because a couple people there in the land is may be upset or offended by it, or they don't withhold certain customs and traits because various people are coming into it and don't fully understand. They go on with their devilish nonsense, full speed ahead. They don't let a thing in the world stop them. Israel should be the exact same way concerning Almighty Yahweh's feast. No matter what the roadblock or no matter what the obstacle is, whether it be traffic, whether it be vehicular mishaps, whether it be contention from family members, from friends, co-workers, whatsoever the case may be, Israel should be moving full speed ahead to keep Almighty Yahweh's feast and shouldn't be hung up on having to expel various items from their home for a week. Because truth be told, whatever it is you fighting to keep or trying to inquire about whether or not you should keep, in all honesty, if you were to go 2 weeks without it, it wouldn't kill you. One of the most interesting things that contained in this Feast of Unleavened Bread, this Feast of Unleavened Bread is a purging process, not just of the leaven from our homes, not just the sin from our hearts, but it's also a cleanser for our bodies as well. You look back at the American diet and all of the things in which we eat today, with all of the fruit, all of the sweeteners, and all of the unnatural things that they put in our foods, and all of the starches and things in which they put in the candy, the cookies, the cakes, and the pies, the potato chips, and all those different things we love. Sit back. Just do it amongst yourselves. Get on a scale. At the end of this service, just get on a scale and just weigh yourself. Those of you who have the means to do it, weigh yourself today. And then weigh yourself at the end of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. See if you ain't slimmed down at least a pound or two. Depending on what you're eating, you might have dropped a few more. But then also, for those of you that might have upper respiratory issues or conditions with mucus and things of that nature that build up in your lungs, see how your breathing is during the course of this week. Because all of those things that we fighting to hold on to, this particular cookie, this particular cake, that pie, this beverage, all those different things they do just serve to help build up excess mucus and phlegm in our bodies. And inside of the mucus and the phlegm in our bodies are all kinds of contaminants and things that serve to only weaken our bodies and make us sick. And Almighty Yahweh gave us a break from all of those things by way of this Feast of Unleavened Bread. But we don't want to see that though. Even that's a blessing. Only Almighty Yahweh can bless you by way of inconveniencing at the exact same time. But we don't see it. And going on further, we get on further down here into this chapter. Yahweh tells the people in this 11th verse, it says, and you shall eat it with your loins girded, and your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste, for it is Yahweh's Passover. So this wasn't an all day, this wasn't a, oh man, we're going to sit down, we're going to dine, we're going to have a 52-course meal, and we're going to just sit back and we're going to make a day of it. No, this wasn't that type of affair. Yahweh told the people to eat it with their staff in their hand, their loins girded, and their shoes on their feet. In other words, hey, look, don't be all day, don't be all long. You're going to have to move not too long hereafter, so be prepared. Be ready to go shortly thereafter. It says, for I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment, for I am Yahweh. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations, and you shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. See, earlier I spoke of people wanting to retweak or remodify things in Yahweh's word. You got people now amongst Israel or so-called Israel that believe that because we're in the land of captivity, we shouldn't keep the feast today. Because we're not in our own land today, we shouldn't keep the feast. But yet these same people that will say that we shouldn't keep the feast today because we're in captivity will put on tassels though. They'll come on along, they'll keep other aspects of the Torah. But yet when it comes down to the feast, suddenly we don't have to keep these because we're not in our own land today. But Yahweh told ancient Israel that we were to keep it throughout our generations. He didn't say, hey, look, as long as your generations are in the land, keep it. Now, when I disperse your generations throughout the world due to their disobedience, we're going to suspend it. And then when I bring y'all back home, then y'all keep it. He didn't say that. He said to keep it throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. Olam. There is no expiration date on forever. There is no cutoff point on forever. You know, we get these products in life that we use and we eat, best used by this date or best if consumed by such and such a day. We get milk and things of that nature. You got a certain amount of time to eat it or you got to throw it out. That's not the case with Yahweh's Torah. That's not the case, especially not as far as this ordinance that we were commanded to keep forever. It didn't say, hey, look, y'all got from now until King Josiah comes to make the reforms to keep the feast. After Josiah dies, you don't keep it no more until Yahshua comes the second time. They didn't say that. Say we were to keep it throughout all of our dwellings forever. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, That soul shall be cut off from Israel. And this is how serious it gets. This ain't just formality. We ain't just throwing away bread because we're trying to scale back and save money or anything of that nature. But this is dead serious. This is how serious Yahweh is about this memorial, which was symbolic of not just Israel's deliverance, but also of the body of his son, Yahshua HaMashiach. Says that any soul from that first day to that seventh day that eats leavened bread shall be cut off. That's serious. And in the first day, there shall be a Kodesh convocation. In the seventh day, there shall be a Kodesh convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat. That only may be done of you. So your meal offerings for those who, oh, you can't kindle a fire on the Shabbat. You shouldn't kindle a fire. That's out the window. I would say here on these days, no work should be done therein, except that which every man should eat. So your meal offerings are perfectly permissible. That's the whole theme this time of the year. But so many people get hung up on eating. That just goes to show you where our minds are. As strange as it is, Yahweh put the brain up here, inside the cranium. He put the heart or the leg here to pump the blood, but yet our mind somehow, some way managed to make their way into our stomach. So that's where we focus. Damn, I gotta throw the cookies out. Man, I gotta throw the soda out. But yet, you didn't come to the world eating soda. You didn't come to the world eating cookies. You didn't come to the world being fed and nourished by way of cake and pies and butterscotch crimpets and Burger King Whoppers and McDonald's Big Macs. You didn't come here being nourished on that garbage, and you ain't going out being nourished on that garbage. But Yahweh asked us, throw it out. 1 week. Commanded us to do it for 1 week. And we act like that 1 week is an eternity. But then, to show you how awesome and miraculous Almighty Yahweh is, he sent his son, Yahshua HaMashiach, to the earth. Yahshua HaMashiach took on the same sinful flesh that we took on the same form of flesh, wrestled with the same temptations that we wrestled with. In fact, wrestled with the devil himself. And the devil himself tempted him while he was on a 40-day fast. Hey, look, commanded these stones be turned to bread. Yahshua had to rebuke him, let him know, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh. So we get so fixated and hung up on leavening that we commanded to throw out of our homes, but yet that ain't what's going to sustain us. If Almighty Yahweh was to command any one of our bodies or all of our bodies from this moment forward as a nation to never need the food or to ever need the things in this lifetime to sustain our bodies ever again, it's fully possible. But yet, we teeter-totter in our faith and we act like 1 week without it is going to kill us. But yet, let's jump on down here a little bit further into the same 12th chapter of Exodus. Now, Exodus chapter 12, verse 29 says here, and it came to pass that at midnight, Yahweh smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on the throne, unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. Can you imagine that? That's some serious love. And that love is displayed for you and I as Almighty Yahweh's people. As long as we obey it, as long as we strive to do his will. And a part of his will is the keeping of this Pesach and this Feast of Unleavened Bread. Struck a whole nation. Wasn't one household in the nation where something had not died on the behalf of Yahweh's people. And he called for Moshe and Aaron by night and said, rise up and go ye forth from among my people, both you and the children of Israel. Go, serve Yahweh as you said. Also take your flocks and your herds, if you said, and be gone, and bless me also. And you done gave the people hell. You done took the people, you beat the people, you overworked the people, you taxed the people. When the people sent their representative to you to command that you let them go 3 days journey to worship Almighty Yahweh, you told the people, who is Yahweh? I know not Yahweh, I fear not Yahweh. That's what you told the people. And then you went on and you told the people to get back to their work. And when you said that it must have been that they didn't have enough work to do, you made the people's work conditions even more strenuous. So much so to the point that you gave the brick masons quotas and put in an edit that Anybody who didn't meet their quota, they had children, the baby would be placed in the wall, and the building structure would go up on top of the babies. But yet now, Almighty Yahweh, the Elohim of those same people that you oppressed, he now rising up against you, and you're going to send them out. Go ahead. All of y'all, everybody, don't leave nothing behind. Everybody go. Serve y'all. And when you get to serve me, bless me. See how Shaitan works? When Shaitan grips hold of an individual, when Shaitan does that, there is no stopping these individuals. Even when Almighty Yahweh does to people what he did to Pharaoh and hardened his heart and allowed him to continue on in evil, they get so fixated on themselves that they bypass their own wickedness and still want a blessing for themselves. To this time of the year, anybody that's troubling you, that night of the Pesach, that was an excellent night to lift up prayers and to lift up cries of judgment against all of your adversaries in this lifetime. All them that trouble you without a cause, those that fight against you for no reason at all. That night of the Pesach was an excellent time to cry out unto Almighty Yahweh against all of your adversaries and ask him to move against them in the same capacity that he moved against ancient Israel's adversaries. It goes on further and says, and the Egyptians were urgent upon the people. They pressed up on them. Now they wanted them out of here. The same way in which America does to the so-called illegal immigrants today. The same way in which they in an uproar about getting them all out of here. They pressed and they were urgent upon the people that they might send them out in the land in haste. For they said, we all be dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moshe. And they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and rain. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required. And they spoiled the Egyptians. See, I mentioned earlier about how Yahweh's feast days point to his kingdom. What we read about that occurred in the days of old in ancient Egypt, you're going to see that same thing unfold. Those of us who Almighty Yahweh allows to be alive in his life, in this land, when Yahweh really does bring down and destroy Babylon, when Yahweh destroys the nations of this world, and Israel has to flee and return home, you're going to see the same thing take place. When Israel leaves here, since it wasn't 2019 like everybody was calling for and projecting last year, since our exodus didn't take place last year, but when Yahweh does bring us out, you're going to see that same thing. They're going to want you so out of here so bad, they're going to be willing to give you whatever it is that you stand in need of. And the scripture even talks about how at the battle of Armageddon, all of those things that we chase after in this lifetime, the things that we covered after, the fine raiment, the pearl, the jewels and everything, they're going to be given unto you in that day and time. Scripture talks about the battle of Armageddon and how Yahudah also shall fight and how they shall gather the pearl, the fine raiment, the linen, the gold, and the silver. You're going to see these things unfold in our lifetime. Now let's jump back here a little bit further, still in the book of Exodus. We'll go into Exodus chapter 13. We'll start here in verse 1. For Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whatsoever opens the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast, is mine. See, this is what Yahweh commands of us. Just as Almighty Yahweh would later come along and give his firstborn unto us, so that we might have life, have it abundantly. Almighty Yahweh required that all the firstborn, all that open the matrix in Israel, all that come through the womb, be given unto Almighty Yahweh as a return for the favor, the might, and the work that he did by smiting all of the firstborn of Egypt. But today, our firstborn, many of them, we sit back, we find reasons to duck out. I can't do this. I ain't I got this to do, or I got such and such a thing to do. But the saddest thing about it, though, we find all kinds of reasons and excuses to skip out on Yahweh's feast, and we find all kinds of reasons to make modifications for why we need to do this, or add this, or take away from that. But yet, the day in which our calamities hit us, though, we won't want Almighty Yahweh to do that to us, though. Yahweh commands us to keep his Torah. We find reasons to not keep it, or find reasons to break it. But when we start crying out to Yahweh in our adversity, we wouldn't want Almighty Yahweh to find a reason to not answer our prayer. Oh man, you know what? Man, he down there, he's suffering, eating the flick, man. I'm watching this game over here. I'm watching the Yankees play the Mets in the World Series over here. He be all right. Or his sister over there, she crying out, I'm going over here, I'm tired, I'm going to take me a nap. No. Now, if Yahweh was to begin to treat us in the way in which we treat him, he has some broken and devastated hearts. And Moshe says unto the people, remember this day in which you came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of the hand of Yahweh, Yahweh brought you out from this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. This day you came out in the month of Abib, and it shall be when Yahweh shall bring you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, which he sware unto your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey. You shall keep this service in this month. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread, and in the seventh day there shall be a feast to Yahweh. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and there shall no leavened bread be seen with you, neither shall there be leaven seen within you in all your quarters. All of that stuff we commanded to throw it all out. We need to get it out of our home. We need to get it out of the garages. We need to get it out of the cars. We need to get it out of the desks, the cubicles at work, all our quarters. We were commanded to remove it as a memorial for this time frame here. Just as people go off and they bake cakes and pies and cookies and things and they do it from scratch in this lifetime, Almighty Yahweh was bringing his oppressed people, the children of Israel, out from under their oppressors and was allowing them to build a nation from scratch without all of the sin, without all of those different additives and all of those different strange customs that the ancient Egyptians had. Almighty Yahweh separated his people from the wicked oppressors and allowed them to go on off into a land. And he even allowed them to purge the land. He told them which nations to remove from before them and take the land. He said he would give it to them, a land flowing with milk and honey. The milk and honey being symbols of plenty. They were symbols of being affluence, things that were in great abundance. It was symbols of being blessed by Almighty Yahweh. But yet today, as with this in our history, we forget about it, we skip over it, we gloss over it, we want to bypass it, we want to act like it's a great inconvenience. But yet we still want Almighty Yahweh to deliver us. But we hate for Almighty Yahweh to act like delivered us in this day and age was an inconvenience to him. And we're going over here a little bit. Let's go back into Deuteronomy chapter 16 momentarily. Yahweh says here, one of those instances where you got to constantly remind people. As Zakein Dawid says on numerous occasions, you got to go over things over and over and over again to make sure that Israel gets it. Deuteronomy 16:1. Observe the month of Abib and keep the Pesach unto Yahweh your Elohim. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh your Elohim brought you forth out of Egypt by night. And you shall therefore sacrifice the Pesach unto Yahweh your Elohim of your flock and your herd in the place which Yahweh shall choose to place his name there. And you shall eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. The unleavened bread serves as a reminder of the state of mind as well as the state of being in which our ancestors, our foreparents were in when they were being brought out of the land of Egypt. It wasn't a comfortable time. It wasn't a time of leisure. They wasn't at Memorial Park. They wasn't at Memorial Stadium or Raven Stadium. They wasn't at any of the other stadiums throughout the land that people go for the baseball games and the sporting events, eating hot dogs and pretzels and things of that nature. It wasn't a good time. It wasn't a tough occasion. It was a time of great stress. It was a time of judgment and calamity in the land. While Yahweh smote the nation of Egypt, he brought his people, children of Israel, out right through it all. And that's what this bread of affliction, this unleavened bread, is to remind us of. It's to keep us humble. For you came forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that you might remember the day when you came forth out of the land of Egypt, all the days of your life. And there shall no leavened bread be seen with you in all your coasts 7 days, neither shall there anything of the flesh which you sacrifice the first day at evening remain all night until the morrow. See, we had to get those things out of our homes. All of that leavened bread, the candy, the peppermint, all of those things. We had to get all of those things out because all of those things serve to represent various facets of sin that the people of Israel still continue to hold on to. You ever see a person, two people in a dispute? You ever see any people at odds with each other, Brother Lloyd, but then other parties come from outside and they work to the best of their ability to resolve the dispute, and they come about with a reasonable and fair, equitable solution to the dispute, but that one party is just determined they ain't gonna let it go, even if they come away with the better end of the deal. You ever see those people that operate like that, where the dispute is resolved, the beef is quelled, the other party that they were at odds with has come to the conclusion, hey, look, that was real small, that was trivial, we can get past it, we can move on. But that one person just still fuming, still holding on to that pride, still holding on to their ego, whatsoever their beef is. That's how sometimes you can see the children of Israel get when it comes down to the cleansing of their homes, as well as the cleansing of their minds and their hearts and their bodies, when it comes down to the Pesach and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Somebody still holding on to them butterscotch crimpets. Somebody still holding on to that pack of cookies that they don't want to get rid of. Or somebody still holding on to this particular beverage or that beverage that they uncertain about, but yet they won't let the Ruach lead them and just say, you know what, I'll do without it for a week. I'll go here, I'll just chuck it, I'll just get rid of it. I ain't gonna die. But yet, this unleavened bread, you don't see people fighting to hold on to that though. You don't see people fighting to get that. You ever notice you can just conduct a survey among yourself? Now, this ain't Torah, this is not Torah, but just watch. See how many people you see fighting to hold on to that unleavened bread well after the feast. See how many people you see fighting. Well, you know what? I ain't gonna rush to go back to none of that stuff. This matzah ain't bad. This matzah tastes pretty good. You know, I put it with this. I eat it with that. But you know what? I got 3 boxes left. It's the 7th day of the feast. I'm gonna go ahead on. I ain't gonna touch the leaven until all of this is gone. You see how many people you see do that. But yet, when the feast days emerge, you see people trying to gather up everything. You see people trying to hold on to that Duncan Hines box of cake mix. You see people trying to hold on to those little Betty Crocker cookies. You see people trying to hold on to those Chessman cookies or those Girl Scout cookies or whatever the case may be. All those different things are representatives of various sins as well that Israel might like. Somebody in the congregation might have a dispute with another brother or sister. They refuse to let it go. Still holding on to it. Still holding on to the leavening of malice. Still holding on to the leavening of envy or the leavening of hatred. But all of those things we were commanded to remove from not just our homes, but also from our hearts, our minds, our borders, our quarters. Let's go back here into the book of Corinthians. In fact, we'll go 1 Corinthians chapter 5. The apostle gives us some sound advice, some sound instructions also concerning leavening. And this is the apostle talking to a particular congregation in Corinth. And he was chastising them because there was a certain wickedness that was taking place among them. And he was letting them know that this particular thing that they were doing, as well as their glorying, that it wasn't good. 1 Corinthians 5:6 says here, your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? So imagine that you go through the whole process of cleansing your house. You go through the whole process of cleansing your house to get everything right in order with what Almighty Yahweh says. But then somebody in the house holding on to a pack of butterscotch crimpets at the last minute, when Yahweh commanded that all of those things be removed from our borders. You done contaminated the whole house. Now, if Almighty Yahweh was to bring down judgment and destruction upon the house because all of the leaven wasn't completely removed from the borders, you'd have brought down jeopardy on the whole house if you were the Achan in your sense, holding on to something. Oh, I got these M&Ms over here. I'm going to eat these. You know, they ain't going to be here tomorrow, but I'm going to hold on to them. I'm eating during the night after the service. No, you bring down leaven and destruction upon the whole people if you do that. But it says here that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. You try to clean up something and then somebody come along, just the smallest contaminant. You done defiled the whole thing. That'd be equivalent to somebody cooking a meal for Yahweh's people, but then you come on along and you throw one ham hock in the midst of it. You done defiled it all. The apostle says to us, purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, even as you are unleavened. For even Hamashiach, our Pesach, or our Passover, is sacrificed for us. So we commanded now to even make our bodies as unleavened. All the different sins, all the different things, different forms of idolatry, worship, all these different things that bring us into disobedience in Almighty Yahweh's word. We commanded to purge all of that stuff out from us at this time of the year. Where do you think the heathens get the notion from? New year, new me. Where do you think they get it from? When ancient Israel was preparing to keep the Pesach and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, they went through their houses rigorously. They went through their houses in the same manner in which Ema Jacobia and Ahoti Colette and the other sisters here go through the temple every year. That's a part of the service too, that many people, they get caught up in trying to mimic or rival or be contentious with the priesthood, but there's so many facets to Almighty Yahweh's service that in many instances they get overlooked. That's the serious portion of the service as well. The cleansing of the temple, the readying of the temple, so that the feast days can be kept properly. And just imagine what would take place in the event that cleansing didn't take place. In the event somebody was just, man, you know what, somebody else will do it. And then somebody else relying on anybody else to do it, and anybody else relying on everybody else to get it done, but nobody did it at all. Just imagine the peril that you would put the nation in if everybody took that mindset to just, man, you know what? And you look up, you come in to keep the first great day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, then you look up, somebody got some Twinkies in the back in the women's study, brother got a soda in the men's study somewhere because the work wasn't properly put in to really purge the place and to remove all of the leaven. Now apply that same principle to your life. Apply that same principle to the way in which you and I all live. Look at the judgment and destruction that we stand in the event we decide to just, oh man, I'm all right, I'm good, I got it covered, I'm all right. Yeah, I kept it last year, you know, so I'm straight. But you don't know what you may have done to offend this brother or that sister, or what they may be holding against you because you refuse to acknowledge what you may have done wrong, or you refuse to go to them and seek out forgiveness, or vice versa. All of these things, the apostle commands us to purge out the old leavening, that we might be a new lump, unleavened. Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with the old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. This is what Yahweh was commanding of us, not to just rush into the temple to just keep the feast for sake of the ritualistic aspect of, man, I gotta get my feet washed, you know, but at the same time, I ain't get no unleavened bread, but you know, I'm gonna just take the regular bread, as we've seen brothers do in instances gone by, years past. We've seen brothers fight to try to justify having completely leavened bread during the time of Yahweh's feast. We've seen people try to do those things, but that's not what the scripture commands. We commanded to remove all of those things and to keep Yahweh's feast with the bread of sincerity. You know, sometimes you see people, some people, you might only see them at the times of Yahweh's feast. Then you don't see them or hear from them no other times. But then they get into instances where the jams come in, people want the blessings from Almighty Yahweh. So it's, hey, look, here now. Okay, there were 51 other Shabbats in the year, plus Yahweh's feast days. But you pick and choose certain ones now. Yahweh got down on the people and he reminded them there were certain feast days in particular. He leaned on the males in particular. 3 times in the year shall all your males appear before me. And he got down on it. He let them know, hey, look, you show up and you appear before me. Feast of Unleavened Bread. The day of Shavuot. And the Feast of Sukkot or Tabernacle. But yet people play double dutch and hopscotch with Yahweh's feast days and move and bounce all around like they want to, not knowing that they're doing nothing but bringing jeopardy to their own souls, as well as the souls of their households, by doing such a thing. See, we can't take Yahweh's feast and butcher Yahweh's feast and do to Almighty Yahweh's feast whatever we want to or however we want to keep. Even the heathens with their damnable holidays, they try to keep to that nonsense to the letter. You don't see the heathens fight. Hey, look, no, you forgot the reef. We're not gonna put the reef outside. No, we're gonna do that. Hey man, look, where the Christmas tree? Man? You know, skip the tree, man. We just gonna pass out the gift. You don't even see them go through that type of nonsense. They keep all of that garbage to the letter. You ain't never see no heathens. Man, hey man, it's Thanksgiving. Where the turkey at? Man, you know what? We just gonna pass out roast beef sandwiches, you know, and let everybody eat French fries. No, they go through all of that garbage. They get that ham, they'll get that turkey, they'll get all of those other trimmings and fixings. You don't see them little children come out there, little bad-tailed bastards. You don't see them out there without their pumpkins or their jack-o'-lanterns going from door to door trick-or-treating. You don't see them just asking, hey, look, yeah, we're here to keep Halloween, you know, da 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 da. Where your costume? Nah, they go through their nonsense and their damnable so-called holy days. They go through all of that nonsense. They keep it to the letter. Every one of them, they keep to the letter. You don't see them 4th of July roll around. You see they go through all kinds of hoops and loopholes to get the fireworks. People here in Maryland, they famous for running up 95 to go to Pennsylvania to get all kinds of cheap, inexpensive fireworks or what have you, and bring down here just so they can keep the 4th of July. You don't see them heathens, well, you know what's 4th of July? We ain't got to worry about no fireworks. And we ain't got to have no cookout on Memorial Day. You know, we just remember the veterans that fought in the war and died, you know, because that's the spirit of it. We do that. But yeah, you know what, man? Labor Day, let's all go to work. Even though it's a day off, let's all go to work. Nah, Those holidays, those heathens, those days in which they celebrate, they do it and make sure they got everything in line and proper to the T. Even if they hate it, even if the spirit of Ebenezer Scrooge jump on them, bah humbug, they'll show up looking for their gifts. But then when it comes down to Yahweh's feast days, suddenly, the most Kodesh days of the year, suddenly no, you know what? I ain't gonna participate in that aspect, but I'm gonna still be here to do this. Or, well, I ain't gonna do that, but I'm gonna do this. No, you do whatever Yahweh says for us to do, or you do nothing at all and be damned. Ain't no middle ground, ain't no straddling the fence. No, you pick a side. You follow Almighty Yahweh's Torah, or you follow the son of perdition to that lake of fire with burning brimstone. See, we sit back, that's what gets us in trouble in so many instances. Our refusal to do Yahweh's will, but yet an intense desire upon us to want to do our own will. Can you imagine that, Iman and Yah? We're going to impose our will on Almighty Yahweh. Spiritual rape, if you will. We'll sit back, no, Yahweh, I know what you wrote in the book. I know what you told the prophets to do. Now, I don't feel like that. I'm going to do this. And they're going to reverence it, and they're going to respect it, and they're going to act accordingly. We're out of our minds as a people. And it shows in many instances by the way in which we conduct ourselves when it comes down to the things and the days of Almighty Yahweh. But yet, we don't see that our mockery or our obedience unto Almighty Yahweh could determine our blessings or our cursings from Almighty Yahweh. Let's go here into let's go into 1 Corinthians chapter 10 momentarily. Pardon me, everybody. I said 1 Corinthians 10, I mean 1 Corinthians 11. 1 Corinthians 11:27 says unto us, wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of Yahshua HaMashiach unworthily shall be guilty of the body and the blood of Yahshua. See, it's not a thing to play with. If people come in, you got some that just want to do it for form or fashion, or people that see that there's a blessing attached to the keeping of it, but yet they don't intend to sincerely keep it, but they just don't want to look bad for not showing up, or they don't want to look bad for standing down. But you would actually do well by yourself if you, knowing you hypocrite, knowing you half-handedly and sincerely doing it, you would actually do well to just not even so much stand down, but sit all the way down versus standing up, showing up, defiling yourself, and partaking in an unworthy manner, knowing that you yourself are doing so in an unworthy manner, because the apostle says to do so, you're guilty of the blood of Hamashiach. You right there along the lines being counted with those that was guilty. You'd be equivalent to one of those that punched him in the face. You'd be equivalent to being one of those that smashed the crown of thorns on his head. You'd be equivalent to being one of those that cried out, away with him, crucify him. His blood be on us and on our children forever. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat the bread and drink of the cup. For he that eats and drinks unworthily eats and drinks damnation to himself, not discerning Hamashiach's body. You see how serious this is at this time of the year? It's going far beyond just leavening bread versus unleavened bread. It's going far beyond that now. It's getting down to the very salvation of one's soul. We don't want to come and approach this as if this is a game. We don't want to approach this as if this is a joke. We want to be dead serious about this. The scripture says further, for this cause. For what cause? The shucking and jiving and bluffing and playing, the eating of Yahshua HaMashiach's supper unworthily. For this cause, many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. You ever see those people where some of them, they just, for whatever reason, they just always downtrodden, always afflicted, always got some form of bodily ailment. You ever see those people that they just never get any stronger whatsoever? Whoever is teaching in front of them, whoever is teaching with them or talking with them, they never grow any stronger. But yet they continue to show up, and they continue to show up year in and year out to all of the feasts with the leaven of insincerity and falsehood. And as a result of doing it insincerely and hypocritically, their spiritual growth is stunted. And as a result of their spiritual growth being stunted, their physical development is also hindered as well. And this is why we are so serious about this time of the year. This is why we're commanded to do this thing so strictly, so circumspectly, because this is not a game. Our salvation hinges upon this right here, this very time of the year. And also, like Zakim that we said earlier, this is the starting point of your new year. You miss this point in the year, if you're off with this, you'll be off with every other aspect of the year. If you're off with the sighting of that new moon that commemorates the month of Abib, you'll be off with the calculation of Pesach. If you're off with the calculation of Pesach, you're off with unleavened bread. If you're off with the calculation of unleavened bread, you are off with the blowing of the shofar. You're off with atonement. And one thing you definitely don't want to be off on is the ingathering or the tabernacling of Almighty Yahweh's people. Be alive in the earth in that day and time whereby Almighty Yahweh is getting ready to gather his people. Be alive in the earth in that time where Yahweh blows his shofar and gives his messengers the word to gather Yahweh's people. And so as to know which moves to make at what time. Be alive in the earth at that time and miss it all. And let the judgment hit. And the winds of judgment blow through the earth and the doors of Hasid or the doors of mercy close. Be alive in that day, playing around, shucking and jiving, and get left out of the kingdom. And find yourself waking up in the resurrection, but the second resurrection, 1,000 years too late. See, this is why this Pesach and the Feast of Unleavened Bread is of utmost importance. It's a rehearsal for greater things to come. Remember, those of you, many of you in this room now, you all are older than me. You all went to school just like I did. They had those fire drills when those alarms and everything went off. Everybody knew what to do at the time that the bell sounded or whatsoever the alarm was. Everybody knew. If the procedure was to get down under the desk, depending on the era time you grew up in, you knew to get down under that desk and you stay there until that alarm stopped ringing. If the procedure was to get up and everybody meet single file at the nearest exit, you met single file at that nearest exit. You made your way on out that door. And if there was a designated meeting point across the street or around the corner from the school, you went and you did it. You did it orderly. Yahweh's word commands and requires of us the exact same thing. So that the day in which Almighty Yahweh gathers his sheep, those that are his, we all have to be listening for the sound of that alarm and know when to go as well as where to go, so as to be gathered up into Almighty Yahweh's kingdom. Now let's go on back here. Let's leave the book of Corinthians. We'll go back into Deuteronomy momentarily. Let's go into this 8th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 8, verse 1. All the commandments which I have commanded you this day shall you observe to do, that you may live. So you ain't just doing this for nothing. You're not just doing this because Yahweh was bored. You're not just doing this for sake of the fact that the particular sport you like is not in season at the moment and you don't have anything else to do in between baseball, football, or basketball season. You're doing this that you might live and multiply and go in and possess the land which I will swear unto your fathers. And you shall remember all the way which Yahweh your Elohim led you these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you and to prove you, to know what was in your hearts. See, it's a purging process, as well as also it's a cleansing process. See, it was the mouth, as Arcane mentioned weeks prior, how Israel talks too much. That 40-year process of time that the children of Israel was in the wilderness, it was to cleanse the nation of the talkers, the doubters, the disputers, and the unbelievers, as well as to see what was in the hearts and minds of the nation collectively. And remember, it was only a 3-day journey into the wilderness, but it ended up being 40 years. Gilligan and the skipper and the SS Minnow, they ain't got nothing on the journey the children of Israel took. Y'all remember that show Gilligan's Island, where it was supposed to be a 3-hour tour, but they end up getting shipwrecked on the island. They ain't got nothing on the children of Israel. It was supposed to be 3 days into the wilderness. But every time you turn around, there was a new complaint. There was a new issue. There was a new grievance from the people. Even so much so to the point that it vexed Moshe, and he spoke out of turn to the people. And he wasn't even able to go into the land that he was charged to lead the people into. And Yahweh humbled you and suffered you to hunger and fed you with manna. And that's serious. We went around complaining about the breads and the things in this lifetime, the things in this earth, but yet at the same time, Almighty Yahweh fed our ancestors himself, fed them personally. If ever there was angels' food, our ancestors ate it when Almighty Yahweh provided them with the manna. And Almighty Yahweh was so merciful unto them, he fed them every day of the week. And on the 6th day of the week, he gave them charge. You go out, and on the 6th day, you gather double. You better not be out in the field looking for it tomorrow. It won't be there. You gather enough for yourself today and tomorrow. And that's merciful. That's love. Even in the midst of Yahweh bringing them out, humbling them, and in the midst of their being humble, there was a lesson in it to put their trust in Almighty Yahweh. You went down into Egypt, sojourners, strangers. You ended up leaving, oppressed, downtrodden, but yet at the same time, you got delivered by the Elohim of all creation, the creator of all things, brought you out personally. And he brought us out and humbled us to teach us to trust in him. And that unleavened bread that we eat is a reminder of that humbling process, that bread of affliction. And he humbled you, and he suffered you to hunger, and fed you with manna, which your fathers knew not, neither did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh does man live. So whatever it is that we fixated at this time of the year, whatever we stuck upon, whatever it is that we couldn't part ways with, or was so difficult for us to let go at this time of the year, with that quote alone from Yahweh's word, we shouldn't have a problem ever again holding on to any forms of leaven, whether it be a cupcake, whether it be a beverage, whether it be juice, whether it be this or that, whatsoever the case may be. We shouldn't have a problem holding on to any of those things, knowing that the scripture tells us that it's not by bread alone that we live by. We should be able to put our trust wholeheartedly in Almighty Yahweh. Because whether we care to acknowledge it or not, there's a day coming wherein just as ancient Israel had to be stripped of all the amenities, all of the creature comforts in their day and age, we too, those of us that are alive, when Almighty Yahweh cleanses and renews this earth and judges the wicked, we too going to be stripped of all of the creature comforts that we've gotten familiarized with, from leather jackets to cell phones to cars with heating, air conditioning, television, refrigerators, whatsoever it is that we attach to in this lifetime. There's a day coming whereby we're going to be stripped of all of it. And we ourselves We're going to have to be a Lord into the wilderness as well, where Almighty Yahweh says in his word by one of his prophets, we're there. You speak comfortably unto us. So everything in which our forebears went through, as they coming where we too going to have to go through the exact same thing. Israel, I conclude this message by saying unto you, just as we purged our houses of the natural leavening that we would eat and consume, let us also purge these houses that Yahweh gave to us on consignment for a specified amount of time. Let us purge these houses, our hearts and our minds and our bodies, of all manner of leavening and evil works that are displeasing and unacceptable in Yahweh's sight. I conclude and I turn the service over into the hands of Deacon Reginald. Let us receive Deacon Reginald Taylor by rendering unto Almighty Yahweh the highest form of praise, which is hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Shalom, House of Israel. Once again, I say, happy feast of unleavened bread, and shalom to you all. Abba Yahweh has granted us days that we can be happy and delight in, knowing that they do lead to something important. They lead to his almighty kingdom and leads to salvation. So, like Master Dawid brought out beautifully in his message, we have to take great delight in these days because we could be still in the world. We could be still celebrating the holidays and all the things of the world. But Yahweh has awakened us to see what the true way of life is. And this way of life is so beautiful that, like we all say, it leads to his almighty kingdom. So what else, other thing, what we want to do but to serve Almighty Yahweh? That right there should be our focus all the time, that we take great delight in doing his will, because nothing else leads to salvation in that world. Just this way of life. I could say this memorial of Hamashiach, this right here, probably the most important day of all. Just because even it starts off everything new. Mr. Dawid mentioned it. We want to be on time. We want to do things right. So when he comes, we are prepared and we are ready for him. If we throw anything out of whack, then we're gonna be late. And guess what? Yahweh gonna close that door on us. And when that door is closed, we can't open it back up. We can't knock on that door and say, Yahweh, please let me in. I was serving you. But we had to be in that same mindset as him, so we know that day that's coming. So we had to keep his feast days in all totality. Like it was brought up, we can't just want to come to the feast just to eat. That a lot of us do that. That's us. We like to eat all the time. But it talks about how don't come to the feast with a mindset that, okay, I'm going to just do this and not serve Yahweh. He says bring damnation on you. Don't eat or drink this unworthily, for damnation will be upon you. This way of life is so serious, but it is so beautiful in the other aspect, because all we had to do is walk there in it. He has laid out the path for you. All you had to do is walk in it. Then it's nothing hard at all. But if you want to walk another path, best believe you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it to see his face in peace. You're not going to dwell in his almighty kingdom. So the Memorial Day, you know the world had their Memorial Day. Everybody take off and memorialize or the people that died. But this is the most important Memorial Day of all. The whole world should stop for this because Yahshua HaMashiach was no one like him on the face of this earth. He gave up his life for the sins of the whole world. Who else has done that in this world? No one. So that's why I said this is like one of the most important memorial and feast there is. And I want to talk on how this feast, how Yahshua HaMashiach showed us that we need to be unified, not only with him, but unified amongst one another. It's very important. And we must have one like mind to do his will. And when we come to this feast, we must get all leavening out of these vessels. We can't play. We can't do our own thing. This right here is the start of the beginning. And he wants you to start as a new creation and walk with him. Get rid of that old self. A lot of people, they want to go back and forth. They like the good old days. They like doing the things of old because it pleased the flesh. But that burning like a fire is not going to please your flesh. It's going to burn it. This way of life, this is going to please you because following his ways, you're not going to go to that burning lake. You're going to dwell in peace with Almighty Yahweh forever and ever. Doesn't that sound, y'all can talk back to me, Israel. Doesn't that sound like something pleasing you all want to do? Dwell in peace forever and ever. Hallelujah. So like I said, this way of life, we shouldn't have a problem doing. We should take great delight in doing it. We shouldn't be sad. We shouldn't be down in this feast, even though this is a somber time right now. But we should know in the back of our minds that we are following the things that Yahweh has commanded us. And doing his will should give us pleasure, should please us, because we know what it leads to, Israel. Let's go to book of 1 Peter. Minister Dawid brought out all the things of the feast. How the 14th day it starts it out, the 15th we start our feast of unleavened bread. So I'm not going to go back into that because he already covered that beautifully. I want to get into right now how the feast of unleavened bread, how it should be unification, how we should get our minds off of different things and get our minds solely on the one, the only one, the great I am. Let's go to 1 Peter 4. 1 Peter 4 says, since Hamashiach suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves also with the same mind. He suffered, Israel. You know the things that he went through. He was beat. He was spit on. He stabbed in the side. They did all types of things to someone that was perfection. Didn't have no faults at all. But that's what they did to him. They lied about him. They did all these things. But it is because of him we have life. If he didn't go through with that, where will we be at to this day, Israel? He gave up his life for all of us. So he says, arm yourselves with the same mind, for he who has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin. Like Mr. Dawid mentioned in 1 Corinthians 5, get rid of that, the leavening out of your vessels and your homes. He says, get out your homes and your vessels, most importantly, and get rid of the old self and walk in the new creation that you were meant to walk in. Because he said you are a Kodesh people. Be ye holy or Kodesh like Yahweh is Kodesh. Don't you want to be like your Abba Israel? He is Kodesh. He is righteousness. There's no amount of falsehood. There's no amount of wickedness in him. So we follow him. It says that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh for the lust of men, but for the will of Yahweh. That's where we get in trouble. We want to be in the flesh all the time. I spoke previously in the message about the flesh. We should be walking in the ruach of Almighty Yahweh. And it was because of that ruach Yahweh has given us, we can do all things, just right. We can't do this thing on our own. We can't have a mindset to think we're going to do this and get to Yahweh's kingdom on our own. Like Elder Johnson or Zakin Dawid said the other day, when Yahweh moves, we move. Just like that, right? So we have to move with him. We can't go ahead of Almighty Yahweh or we're going to be in big trouble. We have a lot of examples in this book where different people, Israel, they went ahead of Yahweh and they got themselves in trouble because they didn't wait. They didn't, what did he say? Shema, hear. We have to follow Yahweh's commands. So it says, for we have spent enough of our past lifetime in doing the will of the Gentiles. We spent enough time. Like I say, it's a point of time in your life where you say, okay, now this is enough. This is enough. I hadn't done all that in the past. No, it's time to follow Yahweh now because I see what's at stake. This is your soul at stake, Israel. What else would you be striving for? Your soul is on stake. That is really important. So it says, when we walked in lewdness, lust, drunkenness, revelries, drinking parties, and abominable idolatries. That's what we did in the past. Yahweh did not like that. In regard to these, they think it strange that you do not run with them in the same flood of dissipation, speaking evil of you. You go through this all the time. The different people you used to hang out with, you got to cut them off. A lot of people, they want to bring you down. They see what you're doing, but now they want to drag you back into that old way. You can't listen to that, Israel. I've cut people off. Had to do it because if I wanted to focus on Almighty Yahweh, then that's what I had to do. If I kept them old people with me and they dragging me down, I can't focus on Yahweh. It might seem just wrong to different people. You might seem like you being evil to different people, but no, you have to get rid of that stuff. Because right now we had to have a mindset to focus on Yahweh. The time is drawing to a close. We don't have forever. People think, oh, I got time. I come to Yahweh when I feel like it. Keep it up. Because you don't even know when Yahweh take that breath out of that vessel. You don't know. So take this time right now and serve him. Because Yahweh is looking at each and every one of us and he sees, okay, who's taking this serious and who is not. And Yahweh can say anytime, okay, you didn't cut up, you didn't done all these things far enough now. That's it. Taking that breath out your soul. And that's it. And after you dead and gone, you can't repent to Almighty Yahweh. That's it. So take the time now and serve Yahweh. Be sorrowful of your sins and serve him wholeheartedly. Now it says, they will give an account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. All people had to give the account to what they have done in this lifetime. For this reason, the glad tidings are preached also to those who are dead, that they may be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to Yahweh in the Ruach. We have to be of one like mind. It's so beautiful how even with the feast, even with the memorial, the Passover, how the foot washing. See, Yahweh, like I said, Yahweh is showing us how to be there for one another, how to be united to one another. And that foot washing is a humbling process where you had to bend down and wash somebody's feet. And we can't have a mindset that, oh, no, I ain't washing nobody's feet. I ain't doing that. No, even Yahshua said, I don't do this, you have no part of me. And then that's not just going to Yahshua HaMashiach, with all of us. We are one body, Israel. So we should be there for one another. Let's go to that. Because it was so beautiful how even Yahshua HaMashiach knew he was going to be put to death and still went through with all the things that he had to do. Could we say we could have done that knowing somebody about to put us to death? To say, okay, now I'm going to go through and with my disciples, my people, and wash their feet. I'm going to go through with all the things that went through and just have a mindset to go through it and not worry. Just know that Yahweh is going to take care of it. To put himself in that situation to give up his life for all of us. He did it. Let's go to John chapter 13. Now, before the feast of Pesach, when Yahshua knew that his hour had come, that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. That's love. What he did for us, that is love to the end. Not just the love that they say in the world. Oh, I love you. I love. And then all of a sudden, next day they turn their back on you. That ain't love. Love is you going to look out for somebody to the very end, Israel. Do you all have love for one another here? I see the love that you have because the many gifts that he has given all of y'all, you work together as a one unit. And all the things that we do in this assembly, it works to the tub for all the body. And Yahweh makes these things work because he see all of us are sincere. Yahweh is going to be there for you if he sees that you are sincere. Yahweh ain't going to leave you if he sees you doing his will. But it says, and the supper being ended, the devil having already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to be betrayed him, Yahshua, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from Yahweh and was going to Yahweh, rose from the supper and laid aside his garments, took a towel and girded himself. Judas Iscariot, doing what the devil got into him, doing what the devil told him. Yeah, like I said, you got to watch out in these feasts. Shaitan will strike. Shaitan is going to cause disruption. Shaitan is going to try to get your mind off of this way of life. And each and every year, the feasts arrive. Shaitan always on your path. I can relate. I know you all can relate also. Different things happen. You look at it, okay, that was Shaitan. Trying to get my mind off of Yahweh's days. But like I said, we guys keep doing it. Keep steadfast. Keep serving Yahweh because these things are going to happen, but Yahweh will look out for you. And watch how if we do this thing in sincerity and the feast over with, watch how Yahweh beroots his people. Because he see, okay, you were sincere. You went along even though the Shaitan was on your trail. Now it says, now he girded himself with the towel. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel which he was girded. Then he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, Yahshua, are you washing my feet? Yahshua answered and said to him, What I am doing, you do not understand right now, but you will know this. Peter said to him, you shall never wash my feet. And Yahshua answered him, if I do not wash you, you have no part with me. So like I said, we have to want to humble ourselves and wash each other's feet, like he says, because he did the same thing. Yahweh ain't going to tell us to do something that he hasn't done himself. He already has done these things and he knows what's best for us. And it shows how much a harbor we have for one another when we carry out these things for one another. Now, Simon Peter said to him, Master, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. He's like, man, get the whole thing. If you're going to wash me, then if it's like that, get the whole body. But Yahshua said to him, he who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not all of you. He already knew that Shaitan was in the mess. He already knew that he was right there, causing trouble, seeking his life. We don't have to cleanse our whole body, Israel. He said just cleanse the feet. This feast of unleavened bread, he wants your mind to be cleansed also from that leaven and being that new creation, Israel. So for he knew who would betray him. Therefore he said, you are not all clean. That's sad when you got people in your midst that have hatred for you just like that. And when we gathered here, sometimes you're going to have people that are amongst you that are not here to serve Almighty Yahweh. They're not here for salvation. They just here to disrupt and cause confusion. And we can't get sad or mad when anybody leaves or have to be sent out of the temple, because Yahweh wants order in his house. When there's not order in the house, there's all types of confusion and disorder, and Yahweh hates that. Don't we all want to dwell amongst him in his feast days and his Shabbats in peace? You shouldn't want all this confusion. That's the world. That's the churches. That they got all that confusion in the churches and all the gossiping and the preacher, he in the same thing. You shouldn't want that. And even if you were in that world, you shouldn't even want that again. You should want to follow Yahweh because it is order in his house. This should please all of us, Israel. We should want to do these things because Yahweh will be pleased with all of us. Then he say, when he accepts you in that kingdom, you want him to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. You want him to say that. You don't want to see his face in wrath. You want to see his face in peace. Let's go to 1 Peter. I wanted to bring that out because that's such a humbling thing that's what he wants of us. He wants us to be humble and serve one another. Stop looking at one another and want to fight, argue, bicker. No, we all here for the same thing, to serve Yahweh and strive for salvation. Shouldn't be none of that in the house of Yahweh. If you want all that striving and all the arguing and debating, go out there and do it. But don't do it in Yahweh's house. 1 Peter chapter 1. And still all about the leavening, getting that leavening out. That's what we're talking about today, Israel. And he even told his disciples, be on guard from the leavening of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. He told them because the leavening of them is hypocrisy. You know people that are like hypocritical. They tell you to do something. They tell you how to live or whatever, and then themselves, they not even doing it. That's hypocritical. We can't be like that, Israel. We can't Say we with Yahweh, but not do what he said. Not keep his days. We got to keep his days in all totality. We can't just keep it one here. I'm going to take the next one off. The next one I'm going to come. Oh, that feast. Oh, okay, yeah, it's Feast of Tabernacle. They're going to be eating. I'm going to come to that. Can't be like that. Can't have a mindset like that. Keep his days in all totality. And you will see how Baruch Yahweh will make his people, especially after the feast. I've seen it. Peter 1, I'm going to start at verse 13. He says, therefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and rest your hope fully upon the Hasid that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Yahshua HaMashiach, as obedient children, not conforming yourselves to the former lust. Like we were saying, don't go to the old things as in your ignorance, but as he who called you is Kodesh. You also be Kodesh in all your conduct, because it is written, be Kodesh, for I am Kodesh. If you say you are of Yahweh, have to be Kodesh. If you say you're of Yahweh, have to keep his days. When you don't do it, you telling on yourself. When you don't do it, you saying you're not of Yahweh. That's what you're saying. And if you call on the Father, who without partiality judges according to each one's work, conduct yourselves throughout the time of your stay here in fear, knowing that you were not redeemed with corruptible things like silver or gold from your aimless conduct received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Yahshua. His blood. Didn't he say the blood is the life of a thing? His blood of all is the most precious, the dam of Yahshua HaMashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. He was without fault, without falsehood. He was without all that. He was perfection. That's why it says he is the lamb without spot, without blemish. And then I'm gonna take it another direction. Even when we are here amongst one another, we bring a best amongst ourselves. Don't you all do that, Israel? You want the best for each other. We should want that. The food that we prepare, the things that we do for one another, you want the best for each other. That's what Yahweh wants. He indeed was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who through him believe in Yahweh, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are in Yahweh. That's why people that say he don't exist, they don't give honor to Yahshua HaMashiach. That is sad. And you bringing damnation onto yourself. And don't, like I said, don't listen to people that say things that are contradictory to the scripture, especially something like that. You know that's wrong. It says to the law and to the testimony, if they don't speak according to this word, they have no light in them. And that light was Yahshua HaMashiach. So they not in him. He's not in them. So they not going to speak. They speaking what their father said. The father is that devil. But like I said, Israel, we had to follow that precious light that was put on this world. He is all things that we should follow. He is the name of all names under the heavens or under the earth that we should be saved. There's no other name, Israel. So aren't you glad he only gives us one opportunity? He only gives us one Yahweh, one Yahshua. There's no other. So we should be glad that Yahweh, there's no other thing that we should follow. You shouldn't want to follow Shaitan. This right here, we should want to follow Almighty Yahweh, right, Israel? Let's go to the book of James. James chapter 1, verse 19 says, "So then, my beloved, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man does not produce righteousness of Yahweh." He wants us to hear his words. "Therefore, lay aside all filthiness and overflow of wickedness, and receive with meekness an implanted word, which is able to save your soul. But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves." We can't hear the word and not do it. Like I said, we can't hear these things. Messenger tell us we have to keep his Shabbats, keep his feast days, and then don't do it. We have to be doers of Almighty Yahweh beside or hearing the word. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man observing his natural face in a mirror. For he observes himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. Who does that? Who do you all go in the mirror and forget what you look like, Israel? No. So we must, when we hear this word, we must do what he commands. Did that from first command he said Shema. But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this one will be Baruch in what he does. If anyone among you thinks he is a believer of this way and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this one is useless. Pure and undefiled belief before Yahweh and the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their trouble, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. He wants us to walk for perfection, Israel. Like I said previously, he wants us the best for us. He wants us to do the things that he commands so we can walk in that perfection of Yahshua HaMashiach. But if we have a mindset that we're going to do our own thing, then how are we going to walk in perfection? How are we going to make it at the end, Israel? This feast of unleavened bread is very important, Israel. Do you see how important it is? Because it's starting off. You can't start off bad or wrong. If you started all wrong, you mess up all the rest of the feast because you don't have a mindset to want to serve him. And we do this each and every year. It's not like, okay, one year we do it, the next I'm take off. No, it's to continue to reacclimate ourselves with this way of life is in you, Israel. Reacclimate yourself with your culture. This is of you. So, like I said, we shouldn't have a problem doing these ways because it is of you. Let's go to the book of Romans. See, the people of the world, they joyous when that days come in the year. You see them at the jobs, they get ready, they decorate a month or two before the holiday is over with, and they still got decorations out. These people got Christmas lights still up. But you see how they celebrate their days. But when Almighty Yahweh's days come up, oh man, I don't feel like going out there. I go when I feel like it. Do you think you want Yahweh to be like that towards us? Or they cried up to me. He needed to be saved, but I ain't gonna listen to him right now. I'm doing my own thing. We don't want that. We gotta think like that. We gotta think, okay, what would Yahweh say when we doing something? But is this acceptable to him? Not just going off and just doing a thing. You gotta think. Yet Yahweh give you this mind to think for yourselves. He gave man free will, but also he didn't put him out there to fail. He gave you the commands to do. So when we err on what we're supposed to do, guess what? That is our fault because we are not listening to Yahweh. Romans 12 says, I beseech you, therefore, brother, by the mercies of Yahweh, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, Kodesh, acceptable to Yahweh, which is your reasonable service. That's the least we can do, Israel. Give ourselves over to Almighty Yahweh and do his will. That's the least thing we can do, right, Israel? Yahshua HaMashiach, he sacrificed himself for us. So what is it for us to sacrifice and to follow him? It's nothing at all. He did it, so we must do it also. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that tough and acceptable and perfect will of Yahweh. Renew your minds, Israel. That's what this time is about. Renewing the mind. Getting rid of the leaven, getting rid of the old self. Come within the new. And when we have a problem of doing the things that Yahweh's commanded, we in trouble. We're in trouble if Yahweh tells us to do something and we buck and bitter and argue and all this other stuff against the Almighty Yahweh. Guess what? We might not be his because we keep going against the Almighty Yahweh. But like I said, if you are of Yahweh, this is within you. This is of you. This is your culture. So you should want to follow this and to show the world that this is the true way of life. Because best believe the whole world looking at you too. Like why they ain't here today serving Yahweh? What is that all about? They watching. They see you take off of work and tell them, no, I'm celebrating the feast days. I'm celebrating. I'm serving Almighty Yahweh. They say take note. And once you do that, and then all of a sudden you slack off and say, oh man, yeah, I don't really do that no more. I just go when I feel like it. They're gonna say, wow, really? I knew that way of life wasn't nothing. They gonna belittle you. Because they know best believe people in this world, they know who the true people of Israel is. Best believe that. So we can't go out and do any kind of thing and look any kind of way before Yahweh. We must walk the way Yahweh commands us to walk. Hallelujah. Let's go to Romans chapter 6. Romans 6 says, what shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that our seed may abound? Certainly not. How shall we who died to sin live any longer in it? Or do you not know that as many of us as were baptized in Yahshua HaMashiach were baptized into his death? See, even the baptism, that is very significant thing also as far as showing that you died, you got rid of that old and come up as the new with Yahshua HaMashiach. You can't even not take that serious. You know, a lot of people want to get baptized, but their mind still ain't right. Your mind has to be right to do these things that Yahweh commands, or he is not going to accept it. So when we get baptized, you have to be serious and want to follow Yahweh and do his will and not your own will. Therefore, we were buried with him through baptism into death, that just as Hamashiach was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life. Walk in newness. When you come to Almighty Yahweh, walk in newness. Walk with him, Yisrael. Look at the life of Yahshua HaMashiach and take notes from him and look at how he lived. Do as he did, Israel. Yeah, you're going to have people coming up against you, arguing back and forth with you, belittling your way of life. So what? Yahshua HaMashiach, he kept going. He didn't stop and get depressed and, oh man, I don't know why these people keep bugging me about this way. Nah, he just kept going. He endured, Israel. So we had to endure these things also because we know it's going to come. For if we have been united together in the likeness of his death, certainly we also should be in the likeness of his resurrection. You all want that, Israel? We want to resurrect, that first resurrection with Yahshua HaMashiach and have everything restored the way it was from the very beginning. We don't want that second resurrection. We want that first. Knowing this, that our old man was crucified with him, that the body of sin might be done away with, that we should no longer be servants of sin. Hate all evil, Israel. That's what Yahweh says. That's what you should do. Hate that evil. You should not want to continue to sin before Almighty Yahweh. Even the longer you stay in this way of life, you shouldn't even want to be around people that sin a lot. Like I said, it should be a new mindset within us. Yeah, when you first come to this way of life, you back and forth sometimes because it's something new to you. But after a while, the word resonates within you and you know this is the truth. Got people all the time that come to this way of life and say, yeah, this is it. This is it. This is the way of life, man. I'm staying. All of a sudden, fizzle out. They just gone after 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. What happened? Yahweh did not change. Yahweh was the same. He's the same all the time and forever. But we want to change. When we come to this way of life, some people, they think, oh, it's the same as church. Same as what they came out of, that world. But like I said, Yahweh wants order in his house. So when people get rebuked, they don't like that. You can't tell. Even Brother Mark was just saying how people are so sensitive this day. You can't tell people nothing. But this is your soul on the line. What else do you want? Do you want salvation? Or do you want the burning lake of fire? He said choose life or death. That's the only two. So when you choose life, you do what Yahweh commands. That's the only alternative. Now it says, now if we died with Hamashiach, we believe that we shall also live with him. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Knowing that Hamashiach, having been raised from the dead, dies no more. Death no longer has dominion over him. For the death that he died to the sins once for all. Yahweh ain't gonna keep coming back with Yahshua HaMashiach, keep coming back and dying for the sins of the world. He did it one time. So like I said, we must take it serious. Stop continually sinning. He did this one time for all. But the life he lives to Yahweh. Do we live for Yahweh, Israel? That's the only thing we should be living for Yahweh, to please him. Likewise, you also reckon yourselves to be dead indeed to sin, but alive to Yahweh and Yahshua HaMashiach. Therefore, do not let sin reign in your bodies, that you should obey it in its lust. He even told Cain, he told him, what you downcast for? What you looking sad for? All you had to do is obey. All you had to do is do the will of Yahweh and avoid sin. He said sin is at the door waiting for you. All you had to do is master it, conquer it. Don't let it overtake you. But what did it do for Cain? He let that sin overtake him, where he slew his brother. And it says the blood of Abel cried out to Almighty Yahweh. That the life of a thing cried out to Almighty Yahweh. Like I said, we have to have a mindset to not want to do sin. Master it, he says, do not let it overtake you. And guess what? Yahweh gave his Ruach to you, a comforter. So you won't be overtaken by these things. That's why we had to have these vessels right and in proper order, because is Yahweh going to dwell within us if we are sinning and not in the proper state of mind? No. And we need Yahweh. We need his Ruach, because there's going to be days that are going to come, going to be far worse than these. So who you going to rely on then? You have to rely on Yahweh, or you're going to perish. And it says, and do not present your members as instruments of unrighteousness to sin, but present yourselves to Yahweh as being alive from the dead, and your members as instrument of righteousness to Yahweh. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under the law, but under Hasid. See that, Israel? And it don't mean, okay, nah, I don't have to abide by the commandments. You know how the world is. You don't have to keep the commandments in these days. People say that they want to sin. They want to go along with what they doing and nobody to tell them what to do. That's the sad thing. And that's why the churches are packed. Because nobody is telling them the things that you're doing are wrong. You can't do these things anymore. The preachers, messengers out there, they just let them do what they want to do just so they can get that money. And they in the same thing. They doing the same stuff. Like I said, we had to open our eyes to these things, because if you see the messenger, the preacher, they not doing what Yahweh commands, why are you following them? But like I said, they want to continue to sin, so it's no problem following them. They're going right along with you. And that's sad, ain't it, Israel? Like I said, when you first come to this way of life, I always bring this up. Like, man, when out there something ain't right, they're not telling me something right. His name is something that it doesn't go along with you. And the more and more you seek out Almighty Yahweh and are sincere, that's when he reveals himself to you and allow you to know his name and allow you to know this way of life and show you the walk there in it. That first time you come to this way of life is so much joy, because you know this is it. This is going to lead to salvation. What they were saying in the world, that wasn't it. Yahweh had Hasid on all of us to show us. That's why you can't squander that. If he open your eyes, you better walk in it. Because you walk away from this, that is sad. And no coming back from that. No coming back. But like I said, when you first come to this way of life and there's joy, it should be the same amount of joy when you're going in it a year, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years. It should be the same joy you get out of this every day of your life. Because guess what? Yahshua HaMashiach and Yahweh, they are life. And they will be there for you no matter what comes to this face of the earth, what you may go on through day by Shaitan. Yahweh is there for his people. And he will not leave you or forsake you, Israel. We are going to go through out this feast talking about different things in this Torah about the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and especially to bring out Yahshua HaMashiach, because this is the time period we must talk about him. It is about him. We can't leave Yahshua HaMashiach out. The world might want to leave him out. They want to discredit his name. But no, this is only because of him that we have opportunity at life. Only because of him. So throughout this feast, that's what we're going to be talking about and bringing out, even after that third day, the joy that comes from knowing that he has risen. And it's sad to just see the world, how they have their days. They had Easter. They have, get this, Good Friday. What's so good about it? The man was put to death. And you call it Good Friday? We don't think when we see these things. There's nothing tough about that. And then they say Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's 3 days, right? No. Then, like I said, Shaitan has done a great deal of turmoil in this world. He says he's deceived the whole world, right? Aren't you glad you're not of the world anymore, Israel? Deceived the whole world. They had their sunrise service on Sunday. You too late. They start service around what, 7 o'clock in the morning? You too late. Because he rose between the Shabbat and the Sunday. The next day, that twilight, that's what he rose, Israel. So, like I said, we can't be too late when we come to Almighty Yahweh. If we do, he gonna leave us. He's not gonna say, okay, nah, my messenger coming, I give him about 10 more minutes. He's not gonna do that for us. When he comes, we must be ready. So prepare your minds now, Israel, and take note, Shema, his word, and just take great delight in keeping his feast. These are days, like I said, that he has given you. And these days lead to his almighty kingdom. So keep them in all totality. And Yahweh wants us to be even united within us all, to be that one body. Hallelujah. And on that note, I want to conclude this service. And I ask that we all stand as we go into prayer. Yahweh, we told you for giving us a sound mind. Yahweh, we told you for even the brethren, fellowship, all that are within the house of Israel. Yahweh, continue to even look over all those that are under your name at this very hour across the world, and root them. Keep your shalom dwelling over them. Let your word continually go forth. Yahweh, continue to show us from the smallest to the elders. Continue to show us that this way of life is truly beautiful to keep. And Yahweh, continue to purge out all leaven out of these vessels and have us walk into the new creation and walk with you and walk in the footsteps of your son, Yahshua HaMashiach. In Yahshua HaMashiach's name we pray. Hallelujah.